getting that feeling of kind of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's a day in, day out experience because we'll never always have the answers. And there's just so much knowledge out there. It's impossible to know it all, right?
All right. Well, hello, Nick. Very nice to have you on the podcast. I have booked you, I think, a month or so ago. And so, for people who are here, Nick is someone who I have co-mentored for BrainStation one time.
Yep.
He's a BrainStation alumni and is now working for Lush. So, if you could introduce yourself and maybe say one or two things that you're working on right now. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, thanks so much for having me. I'd love to speak, kind of share my story, inspire others as well, the journey that I've had. So I'll try to keep it short. Nick, working at Lush as a backend engineer. Before working as a software engineer, I was an accountant. I basically from 2013 when I graduated in university worked in accounting jobs, pursued my CPA, so I am a designated chartered professional accountant. So did all the professional studies with that, and then in the end of 2022 was when it was kind of a long time coming for me with the journey of self-study, not having kind of that passion for what I was doing day in, day out, and not really seeing the impact of my work as an accountant, which is ultimately what kind of led me to pursuing software engineering. So that's when I decided to jump in, both feet, take a boot camp, enrolled in BrainStation, did the 3 month program there, worked for BrainStation as a TA after that, and then not too long after that ended, found my role at Lush. So I've been working there since August 2023 was when I started there. I've been working there since, so about that year and a half mark. And it's been an awesome journey. It's one that I have no regrets jumping in with both feet and pursuing everything that I've done, getting to where I am today. And yeah, any questions you have on that, let me know. I'd love to speak more about that, but I don't want to take up the whole amount of time with that. But yeah, there's always things that I'm always trying to learn, things that I'm kind of working on, whether it's little side projects here or there. Um, right now, recently, I guess one of the things I've been spending a lot of time on is I've been doing a lot of neat code, which I'm sure you know about. Just trying to get better at my data structures, algorithms. Been learning some Python along the way too. Um, Day job TypeScript developer, but always kind of branching out and trying to learn different things. So been learning some Python. Been again not having that traditional computer science background in terms of becoming a software engineer. Always trying to kind of see, okay, what kind of things can I build up on that other people might have that I might not have been exposed to as much, right? So that's definitely been spending a lot of time on that and thoroughly enjoying it. Although a lot of people might not believe that, but I actually really enjoy learning about the different data structures and how to work with these algorithms, understanding the patterns and the technical implementation of things. So that's definitely been keeping me busy. Been having a lot of fun doing that. Probably more fun than I care to admit.
I love that. I love the passion and your curiosity for making your fundamentals strong. That's really, really important. And I think personally it's not something that I have that I have not been doing. I'm more on like on the getting on the AI hype lately. So um
Okay, okay.
but yeah, very interesting. I mean, we all do different things. We all have different priorities, and that's also amazing. Like going through data structures and algorithms. Yeah, that's cool. I have this question where I know you've talked about fundamentals. Do you think there is some kind of constant in the tech industry? Well, you've just worked in the tech industry for like a year or so. Um, Maybe when you were like an accountant, maybe you've been hearing about tech. Is there like a specific thing that is the same or constant throughout these years?
Yeah, so definitely something that a lot of people told me is the good old imposter syndrome, right?
Mm,
Working in the industry for a year and a half, I can definitely say that imposter syndrome is real. You feel it every day, but that shouldn't be something that scares you, that should be something that kind of inspires you to want to learn more and understand more, build up your fundamentals, build up your knowledge on new emerging technologies. And it was kind of the same thing, even in a past life for me in accounting, right? Like it was a very technical field, the work that I did. I had a period of time where I worked at Deloitte, one of the big four accounting firms, and very technical work, very hands-on in terms of understanding accounting standards and reading a lot of documentation, which it was so crazy. I found the shift for me from doing accounting to software engineering, just having that understanding and knowing how to navigate documentation, right? A lot of the times you try to learn things and it comes back again to the imposter syndrome. You'll come up to a task and you give it a first read and you just think, I have zero idea how to do this, right? Getting that feeling of kind of being comfortable with being uncomfortable,
I love
it's
that.
a day in, day out experience because we'll never always have the answers. And there's just so much knowledge out there. It's impossible to know it all, right? And even in the world of accounting too, like there's handbooks which like for audit and assurance, for example. I won't put you to sleep with details, but there probably wasn't a single day in some of my jobs that I wouldn't go back to the documentation. You have that great understanding of fundamentals and how to implement things, but documentation, excuse me, is so important. And just kind of understanding a task in full. And even though you might not know how to do it right away, you might have no idea what path you're going to take. Just, keeping a cool head and putting together a plan and being able to execute on that plan. Uh, Again, the imposter syndrome for me all the time. And it's kind of, I don't like the name imposter syndrome, but I like what it entails, because what that entails is the growth mindset, I think,
I
to me.
love that.
Um, Again, you come across something, no idea how to do it, but you'll figure it out, right? That's our job as engineers, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important. You've touched on that very, very well, growth mindset. When I was starting as well, I had, I would say that I didn't have imposter syndrome just because I know that I don't know. Like I accepted
Oh
that
yeah.
fact. I accepted that I'm not good at this right now, and
Hmm.
that helps in like being curious, being, like in the learning mindset, growth mindset, and just pushing through. There were many times in my first 4 or 5 years where like I really didn't know what I was doing, but I could deliver.
Hmm.
Just because in with the help of your peers, with the help of like just there are times where you don't have to understand the whole thing or the depth of like what you're learning. Just having the most basic is maybe more than enough. And then when you went through all that and you have experienced that, oh, I can do something like this, then go deeper. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
What would you say?
Absolutely.
What would you say? Someone who has experience like you, 1.5 years, what would you say on things like should you focus on the breadth or depth of a specific technology?
Yeah, so very, very good question. So a lot of it kind of depends on your situation and what you're exposed to. So let me explain. So, for example, someone in my shoes where, taking a fast track path, getting into tech, um, all I had self-study for about 8 months that I decided to do. And tech was something I was always interested in as well, right? Even from a kid, like I was building my own computers, um, dual booting Mac OS and Windows on the same machine for no reason other than just I just thought it was interesting, but I never actually dove into the code. There was a few times where like I would do websites as kids on like GeoCities, if anyone remembers that. This is way back when, but I never dove into tech. So again, fast tracking in the way that I did into the industry, from deciding to quit my job as an accountant, getting into an actual day-to-day full-time employed position within less than a year later, right? there's so many things that you get exposed to that first day, that first week, that first month on the job. Definitely getting that breadth of experience when you start, just to be able to keep up with everything, right? And not like keep up, just like stay afloat and not drown, but keep up in terms of understanding what other people are talking about,
Yeah.
understanding your tech stack in full, what your team is using, what other teams are using as well. Like a perfect example, just understanding DevOps, right? Like I knew very little about DevOps when I started with my role as a backend engineer, but very quickly working with other teams, you kind of get shoved into different learning avenues based on what the job requires, right? So like starting to understand Docker and how to build out containers, right? That was totally foreign to me coming from again coming from a boot camp where Docker might have been maybe mentioned the word once or twice in a lecture, but not actually diving in, right? And that's not to say that throwing any shade at boot camps, because with the pace that things happen, you learn fundamentals very quickly, right? But even so, there's so much breadth out there. Uh, Again, being considered, I guess, like at a junior at my level, being a year and a half in, there's still things that I'm still picking up every day, right? There's definitely topics that I have depth that I want to dive into more as well, right? And a lot more of the things, it's kind of a journey where the things that you're working on day in, day out, if you have that inherent interest in wanting to learn more and go deeper, you'll know what you need to get depth in. Like that will be shining out to you above everything else. But the breadth I feel like is absolutely essential in terms of understanding the day in, day out of the job, even if you're not working with certain stacks specifically, but like let's say they're in your organization, right? There's a lot of there's a lot of responsibility and a lot of I guess a lot of understanding that comes with like being a backend engineer. For example, in my role, when we're talking to DevOps, we need to have that understanding of kind of what they do, you know, to ask the right questions as well. Like there's a way to ask someone a question where you can come into it, you know, having a little bit of background understanding and a little bit of knowledge. But if you jump in blind and just say a question like, hey, what is Docker and what do I need to do, right? Someone might not give you that time of day.
Yeah, for
You'll
sure.
need to kind of just build that breadth, and that comes through natural exposure too. The depth, I feel like definitely will come, but for me, at least in my journey, I had to build up that understanding of breadth to know where I was lacking depth. Definitely.
I love that. I love that. I think that is very important for people who are actually getting into tech, getting their first job, because a lot of businesses actually want breadth first for interns or like junior devs, because you
Hmm.
want someone who's jack of all trades instead of someone who's a specialist. Specialists are for people who are more like on their seniority level or, staff level and all
Hmm.
that. And yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. I also started, well, in college, Java, HTML, CSS was all that. But when I started, it was like a whole different thing. I had to learn C sharp, PHP, JavaScript,
Hmm.
and and also these developers, these new developers also has to know that a lot of the things that you have to learn are actually on the job.
100%.
And,
Absolutely.
and only then you would know, oh my God, I have to be deep on this.
Yeah, and again, like the DevOps thing too, like I mentioned, right? Understanding Kubernetes and understanding Docker, right? And just different pieces and how an organization runs their tech stack. You'll come across so many things. Like I think literally even in my first, not even my first week, in my I had like a take home assessment for getting my position now, right? And that was to build a server, to build an Apollo server using GraphQL and TypeScript. And I didn't use a single one of those before I got this assessment, right? that speaks in volumes to say exactly what you just mentioned. A lot of the things that you learn day in, day out, they're on the job. But just because you don't have that exposure to something doesn't mean that you can't use it and can't learn it very well, right? That's the beauty of software engineering is
Yeah,
that, you understand your fundamentals, but it's just different application of those skills in different environments, right? And ultimately, that's how like I was able to land my role, just understanding and building up on everything that I learned in my journey from when I started up until when I received that assessment. Just understanding, okay, sure, it's new, it's foreign to me, but it all was at some point, and I worked my way through at this point. Um, the breadth, it's an amazing thing that, you can find something new every single day to learn with this stuff, but until you kind of have that breadth exposure, you won't really know what to dive in deep on.
for sure.
That's very important.
You touched on something very, very inspirational. Your exam was something that you didn't even learn or didn't even know before. Oh my goodness. Okay,
Yeah.
guys who are listening to this, please pay attention. You can apply even though you don't have experience on it.
Absolutely. And a lot of the job postings, they even say, right? A willingness to learn. That's
Yeah,
a big keyword there. A lot of job postings, they'll have in their description either using, let's say, like Python, Go, or willingness to learn, right? You're applying to these roles. Recruiters know you understand how to program, whether it's a matter of syntax, like day in, day out. Yeah, I'm doing the same things now in TypeScript that I would be doing in any language, right? But again, it's a matter
exactly.
of getting that breath and knowing when you'll need depth.
Yeah.
That's very important. You could spend hours and days trying to learn things. Like I shifted my learning perspective from learning as much as I could to learning or like learning as much as you could just in case you need it to learning like when something is actually required and knowing when to dive in.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's like how flexible you can be. And that's where fundamentals come in. Because when you have fundamentals, you know how, a language works. You know how these loops and all these like concepts work. And it's just a difference in language for different syntaxes for all these languages, right? I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so another question. Is there anything you wish in the tech industry that you wish more people understood?
There are no shortcuts to mastery. And let me elaborate on that. So, again, I'm working for a year and a half, right? There's a lot that I understand, there's a lot that I don't. And I feel like a lot of people come into trying to break into tech with the mentality of, and again, being a boot camp grad myself as well, you'll try to learn as much as you can and you'll try to portray that, okay, I understand JavaScript in full, right? Like I understand Node.js in full. There's like so much that I know. But until you get exposure to things, I'm talking like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years on the job. There are so many different things that you'll come across in the span of time that, like, for example, I have in a year and a half. I can only imagine where I'll be from now versus 3 years from now. Will I consider myself a master in what I do? Probably not. But again, that's because of that growth mindset that I have, right? So, like, I talk to a lot of boot camp grads and like for a brain station, right? Like how we met. So like I have another one coming up this week, for example. And a lot of the times the grads will ask me like, how did you get really good at your job? Or like how did you master what you do day to day? And I'm like, there's no mastery. Like it's and not to discourage them, right? It's to tell them like I'm such a different engineer now than I was a year and a half, like being in their shoes of brand new boot camp grads. And I still look at people and I think like people that I work with day in, day out that have been doing this for 5, 10 years, right? And I look at them and I like put them on a pedestal in the sense of understanding like, okay, the amount of things that this person has seen, like the amount of times prod has broken while they were sleeping and getting forced to wake up and to fix these things, right? Until you get thrown into the fire with things, that's
Mm,
when you really learn. And again, there's a lot of fires I haven't been thrown in, and I can say that comfortably, because if I did, then I would be a very different person than I am today in terms of understanding and having those battle scars, which like a lot I don't have,
mm,
right?
mm,
Um, so in terms of perspective and how a lot of people that I speak to look at me and think like, oh, they're like they might put someone on a fake pedestal and thinking like, oh, this guy knows so much, like yeah, he's done it for so long, right? It's the same thing with me. I look at other people and I understand, because I've been through the journey myself now, that it's a matter of time, and it's a matter of just showing up day in day out to get to where you want to be. There's no fast tracking, right? Like even with AI, like yeah, AI is awesome, it'll get you to get a job done quicker, but
mm,
there's just so much understanding that needs to be built over time. And like that's when you're getting to like the staff engineer roles. It's really just time and exposure to different things, different variables, different factors, and just uncontrolled environments, right? Like especially in my role as I guess as a junior, right? There's a lot of things that I've been exposed to, but then there's a lot as well where things come up where not to say out of my league, but things that I might not have that quick snap understanding, like, oh, this went wrong. Let me check here or let me check there. And again, I know that I don't have that just because I haven't had a lot of those experiences and
mm,
exposure, right? And it's the same deal with someone that has had effectively like zero exposure. There's no set amount of time or events that will proclaim you from, let's say, a newbie to a master. It's just a continuous learning journey of growth, which I really try my best to portray that to a lot of the grads that I talk to, and in the sense of like keep that growth mindset. Always try to keep learning. There's always going to be something, and you build that foundation brick by brick, and you'll see how different of an engineer you'll be from where you are in your journey now to like a year or 2 years or so down the road.
Yeah, you touched on some points again about like exposure and experience. Um, as someone who has been tried and tested is very different from someone who didn't even try. And someone who has tried it on the job is really different. Like
Hmm.
the things that you
Oh yeah.
learn on the job is that's why I'm a very loud advocate on just get that first job, you know? Because it's really helpful and it teaches you things that no one else can teach you, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah. All
It
right.
exponentially increases your rate of growth, the first job.
Exactly, exactly. And I love that, like the battle scars and like making those big mistakes. Yeah, those teach you like really, really hard lessons, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, let's shift our gears a moment. And yeah, we're talking about bootcamp grads, career shifters. What hope would you give them in this age of AI?
Okay, so the way I look at I use it every day. And again, I'll elaborate a little bit more. AI is a tool. That's really all AI is, right? At least from my perspective and what I've been exposed to, a lot of other people have different viewpoints. Not the point. Um, I look at it as a tool, and if you want to stay current in the world of software engineering, like AI is not going anywhere. It's here to stay, right? I've done my own kind of research and understanding how like GPTs work, understanding, and not super deep dives, but just kind of like, again, like that breadth exposure, right? Like understanding how the models work, how the probabilities work in terms of using the inputs and what they think the outputs are going to be. Um, Here's a kind of an analogy that I like to use. In the same way how HTML uses CSS to style a web page, right? Think back to years and years ago. again, I would have been, I don't even remember what year, but probably not even born, let's say. But back when HTML was being used, when CSS would have been introduced, if you didn't know how to write CSS and you only knew HTML, you would fall behind with the times of anybody else who was developing with HTML, right? Again, very silly example, but I think it's pretty relevant. The same way as how AI has been introduced in the world of all these other tools and everything else going on in software engineering, if you're not at least attempting to stay current with it, you might, again, a might, because no one knows where the future of everything is headed. You might be left
Yeah,
behind as opposed to other people that understand and know how to use these tools.
yeah,
Whether it is using like Cursor, for example, if other people are using it, give it a shot, right? See how it goes. Um, Copilot, now that it's free, a lot of people, you have no excuse even just to try it and to see if it speeds up your speed of development, if it increases your rate of productivity. It's a tool. Really that's all it is at this point, is a tool that can be used in so many ways that kind of was never possible before, right? Yes, it can write code, it can write boilerplate for you. It doesn't mean that it's going to write your entire job for you. It doesn't mean it's going to write like your entire projects. It could, if you know, prompting and whatnot. But the way that I see it is, and I say the same thing to a lot of the bootcamp grads. I'm like, it is a tool, you know, and the tool in the right hands of somebody that understands software engineering, understands their fundamentals. It'll do amazing things for you if you understand how it's doing what it's doing and what you're trying to get out of it. That's kind of my take on it, and I'm curious about yours as well. How you feel?
I really do. I agree that it's a tool. It's something that can or not increase your productivity. It depends.
Oh yeah.
It can be frustrating at times, but I do think it should really be augmented with your workflows. I'm experimenting with stuff where how can I, like generate boilerplates really fast with front end, for example.
Hmm.
There's so many things to try, and one of the things that I also learned with AI, for example, is when you want to learn a specific technology, specific concept, specific technology, then just ask AI about it. Send him. I call it a him. Send him a document, a URL, and then like try to explain that to you. There's so many ways to use it, and one thing that you don't want to do is not use it, right?
Precisely.
It is a very parallel to the history when internet came in. Internet was very new. Internet was saying, "Oh, it's a fad. It's like it's a scam. Like no one's believing in it." But look at it now. And AI is the same thing. People will be saying it's not the thing. It's just a hype, but it's the future now, and I really believe in it. There's a lot of opportunity out there. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. And you know, a lot of the things that I read, you know, people that talk about it, we really are still in the pioneering phases of everything going on with AI. I think it was what, GPT-3 was only released in November of 2022. I think it was. Again, I could be wrong with dates, but I know it was relatively
yeah.
recent as well, right? I think it was about the same time that I decided to enroll in the boot camp at Brain Station, and I didn't even know what it was until I think I finished my boot camp, right? Not that, again, could have made a difference, maybe not. If anything, I'm glad that I didn't have that tool right when I was doing the boot camp, because it is it is great in learning things and using it as a partner to bounce things off of, you know, summarize information for you. Um, and again, a lot of like some of this opinion is not my own, it's from things that I've seen. A lot of people are missing the depth of things because of trying to fast track as
Mm.
much as they can with AI, right? Like, I'm not even gonna get into the whole vibe coder thing, how I've been seeing now. People writing whole applications, not even knowing what the code does, just running with it. Like, sure, right? It opens up a lot of opportunity in terms of getting prototypes out and non-traditional, let's say, founders in a sense that have an idea, get something up and running. Maybe that could lead to getting engineers down the road. Like who knows, right? It's still so early in the game to know where things are headed, but one thing that's for certain is that it's not going to leave the
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
In
M-
terms of the impacts that
Yeah.
it's had already, they're not going away. They're only going to increase.
Oh, for sure. My personal take on it too. When I first used Cursor, I was like, okay, this is cool. Very very smart. At many times, and when I stopped using it, I was like, oh my goodness, I feel crippled. I used to tab all the
Oh
time,
yeah.
and so my personal take on it is it's a bit dangerous for people who are starting because you
Yeah.
really don't know what you're doing. But if you're the one who's like, you just want to do prototypes, you want to, maybe you're a founder, maybe you're an indie hacker, then maybe that's fine. But if you're someone who want to be good at engineering, want to do fundamentals, I would suggest not to actually do it. Unless you're doing like you said, like summarizing, like trying to teach you concepts. But like in engineering itself, you want to have that muscle memory too, right? Like you want to see how it goes,
Absolutely.
like how to properly make a for loop, how what's a while loop, and all this stuff. Um, yeah, I mean that's why I think if I started off with all these AI tools at the very start, I think yeah, a lot of programming is muscle memory, and then you wouldn't be as expert after 10 years. And there's a perfect that's why like as senior engineers who uses like Cursor and all these AI tools is pretty good because like you know what you're doing. Like if someone if it autocompletes for you, it's like okay, like this next makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And even debugging as well, right? Like someone that's been engineering for 5 to 10 years, getting something generated for you and flying through it quickly, as opposed to someone like me who might be reading it, still understanding a piece here or there, trying to make sense of loops, pieces, and ends, right? How things interact with one another. It definitely kind of, and like you said, like with the crippled sense, right? In terms of taking it away, you almost feel like you're missing something, and that reminds me of something that I've seen and almost kind of experienced as well. And it was I think the first time I saw the phrase was the Primogen, and he talks about when he was using these tools, the co-pilot pause that he would get, right? You'll start writing something out, you maybe write the first line, write the name of a function or whatnot, and instead of continuing to write, you just sit and pause because the ghost text will start coming up, right?
Mm,
And it's going to give you that suggestion without even having to think about it. And it could maybe even write out your whole function for you based on just the name, right? And I've experienced that myself in terms of, especially with the Copilot free tier. I haven't paid for it myself yet, but definitely experienced that myself. Once you've hit your limit of free autocompletes, I think it's 2,000 a month right now with the tier that they have, you're like, wait, something's missing. As soon as you start to write like the const
mm,
name of a variable, you're like, oh, wait, my tier has expired for the month. I'm flying solo with this, right?
yeah, yeah,
Which I don't really like that feeling in terms of, yeah, I know that it can generate boilerplate, whatnot, start to write out functions for me, but a lot of time, like you said as well, it'll generate code and then you're looking at it and then you'll almost spend just as much time debugging it as opposed to writing it yourself in the first place. So
yeah.
again, it's done a lot so far, but there's definitely a long way to go with things, and it's definitely a way of working to adapt to that
Oh yeah.
new engineers coming in might not build up that muscle memory, like you said, right? Which again, if you don't know that you're going to be missing out on those things and start using these tools right away, it kind of takes away that deep understanding that you might get without them, I
Oh
think.
yeah. Oh yeah. All right, this is a very good discussion about AI. Let's get a bit more personal.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there a particular non-tech hobby or interest that has influenced your work in tech? Could be sports, TV shows, books. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do a lot of reading, nonfiction, different categories. The Indigo around the corner for me, so always going there, grabbing a book or whatnot. And there's a book that I read not too long ago called The Dip by Seth Godin. And what this book essentially talks about is the amount of effort that it takes to get results in things. And the book being called The Dip, um, there's a diagram in the book, uh, and the way it kind of goes is when you first start learning out something, you'll put in, you know, the little bit of effort that you put in will get a lot of results right in the beginning. That is the peak of the dip. So if you're
Hmm.
looking at a chart, it's similar to like the Dunning-Kruger effect where you're oblivious to things, you think you understand everything, then you realize you don't know anything, and then slowly you build up your knowledge in something, right? And the dip is the same thing, is what Seth explains, where you'll start to learn something, that little bit of effort in the beginning will get you a lot of results, but then you're going to hit a dip. And that dip where it could apply to literally anything in life where let's apply to learning software engineering where you'll be studying more and you'll find, oh, I don't feel like I'm learning that much. I'm not keeping sight of my end goal in terms of like where I want to be, right? But that is where a lot of people quit a pursuit of, it could be anything in the world, software engineering specific, right? For this case. So let's say, you start beginning to learn your syntax, this, that, whatever. You're in a position where you say, okay, I want to break into tech. I want to leave my job. And I'll use my example specifically in terms of the dip that I went through, for example. So you start the boot camp, you're feeling good, you're learning a lot, your results are going up with that amount of effort you put in, and then you kind of hit a wall and it starts to drop down like this in terms of what your perceived notion of what you're getting out of it is, right? So like again, I did my boot camp. I was a TA, and then the high ended because the TA contract was done, right? 3 months doing the boot camp, 3 months being a TA, and then you're thrown into the world to find your first job in tech. So again, if you're looking at a chart, my effort going through doing the boot camp, doing the TA, and then it kind of went like this, right? This is the part where before your effort takes off into results, that a lot of people quit. And it really like stood out strongly with me the way how he explained things. And if you're on a pursuit of something and you see that end goal and you know that there's going to be highs and lows, you're going to stick through it no matter what, head down and grind through it. um, you'll break out of that dip, and that's where your pursuit of no matter what it is, nothing will stop you. And it's really a matter of like mental mindset.
Hmm.
And it can apply to so many different things in life, no matter what it is, right? Like I'll give you a very personal thing on my part. So when I finished my boot camp and then finished my TA contract, I've got two kids. So my
Whoa.
my son, yeah, so shocker, right? Personal to 100%. So yeah, so my son was born uh, a week after my TA contract ended with BrainStation.
Oh my
You know,
God.
new kid. Got another kid that I'm already taking care of. She was 2.5, almost at this point, and is what I consider was my lowest in the journey of the dip. If you were to plan it out, right? Had a great start, everything was going good. Kid was born, and no job right there. I could have given up on this journey. I could have went back to do accounting. I could have tried to pursue something completely different at this point, but I knew that my end goal was true. Like I told myself, no matter what it takes, I'm gonna find a job in this industry because this is what as soon as I started that first day of the boot camp, I was like, this is what I was meant to do once I finally dove in, right? Um, and that dip, it was rough to get through. It wasn't an easy thing at all. I was in the hospital with my son for he was born early as well. So, just until he was able to get out of the hospital, I was there for just about almost a month, right? Day in, day out, the hospital all day with him there. I was having interviews and coffee chats in the cafeteria of the hospital, right?
God.
There was every single thing coming at me that could have made me stop, but I knew, right? Like I knew I wanted this. I would go into the library in the hospital in odd hours and continue to do job applications, continue to do assessments, have different phone calls, coffee chats, whatnot, wherever I could, right? And again, I'm so glad I stuck with it because it got me to where I am today, got me that first job, and again, I'm not saying that I have more mental strength, more fortitude than anybody, right? But I knew what my goal was, and I knew that I was in that low point, and to get out of that low, I just had to keep the head down and just grind, and that was it. So again, the
Yeah.
book was again, I read this book after all this happened, and just thinking back to the experiences that I had in it, I was like, wow, this like it really struck a chord with me, this book, and I kind of use it as like anything that I'm pursuing, right? Like if you have intention to get somewhere, you're gonna hit the highs and lows, and there will be every reason in the world to stop what you're doing thrown at you. But if your sight is true on what you want, you will find a way to make it work. If anything, if I can, inspire anybody, let that be a story for you of what
Bro.
I went through. Again, the book is called The Dip by Seth Godin. And I'm definitely going to read a few of his other titles, just because how strongly this book stuck out with me in terms of my own journey and how relatable it was to anything worth pursuing.
Bro, I am so, so inspired. I'm so inspired. I am pursuing
Thank you.
entrepreneurship right now. Started last year. I mean, it's more focused, I think, last year. And entrepreneurship is very, very hard. And I'm very inspired to do stuff that is crazy. But
Yep.
I don't know if I have that courage that you have, having a kid, not having a permanent job. That is crazy. And I think, and I have heard this to other people too, where constraints actually help you grow. Because if you don't have constraints, and let's say you have like all the time in the world, like you can work all the hours or like you have all the money,
Yep.
then you have all these options, right? Like you can go option one, two, three, four, five, and then what happens is like you're not focused. So
Mhm.
I think, yeah, it's making me literally scared and excited right now. Just being
And that's how you
inspired.
know it's worth pursuing. That is how you know it's worth pursuing. If you get that feeling and those butterflies and I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm willing to work for it, then that's kind of how you know like the heart wants what it wants, right? And
Yeah.
you know that it's something you want to pursue. And again, the only thing, person, anything stopping you is it's
Yeah,
all in
bro.
here, right?
Yeah, bro. Thank you for sharing that. I'm very, very touched by that. I
I'm
would.
glad to share. Thank you.
All right, I'm a bit carried away emotionally, but let's get on with the other questions.
Absolutely.
I
Let's
have
do it.
a hypothetical question. If you could have dinner with any tech leader, who would it be and what would you ask them?
Yeah, so I think for me, the late Steve Jobs would
Oh
definitely be
yeah.
someone that I would love to have, a discussion, anything with back when he was still alive, rest in peace. Um, just the way that he was able to create and design products with lasting impacts, almost instant global adoption to the point where it was almost like universal of like, oh, like iPhone right here, right? On a MacBook right now, all these years later. Um, just the way that he was able to prioritize like design simplicity and the user experience and make that what Apple is about, right? The grit that he had, founding Apple, getting forced out of Apple, and then being acquired by
Oh
Apple
yeah.
afterward, right? Just the story is incredible, and whether people like him, dislike him, whatnot, his work stood the test of time, and it will likely continue to stand the test of time into the unforeseeable future. Just, having a vision and knowing where you're going and figuring it out along the way. You make mistakes, but you bounce back and continue to work towards your ultimate goal, and just not letting anybody stop you along the way. Things like that really inspire me, and strike a note with me in terms of my own pursuit of things too, right? Just knowing and how to create a lasting impact and putting in the work head down and how to do it. um, Things like that just really stick out to me and really inspire me, and it's yeah, there's so much that can be said about it, just everything that the man did, uh in terms of for the entire world, right? Like, I I won't go too deep into it, but like, for example, like, I went on my honeymoon years back. I went to Bali, and we were out in like remote areas of Bali. Like, I'm surprised there was even cell phone signal. And you're driving by little houses, and you see like families outside, whatnot, maybe like some kids running around, like chickens running around in the yards, and I see a kid sitting there on an iPhone. I'm like, I am in such a, like, to me at least, was such a remote place, like so foreign to me. But even on the complete opposite side of the world, you'll still see people sitting there on their iPhones in the middle, again, what was to me like the middle of nowhere, driving out to the jungle. That is incredible. The fact that in the palm of someone's hands, the complete opposite side of the world, where I've never been, a completely remote area, and I see a kid sitting there on an iPhone. Like, that says something in terms of what someone was able to do for this world. That
Yeah.
that is incredible to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It is truly amazing. What would you ask him though?
Oh man, where to begin? I think it's hard to get into somebody's head, right? There would definitely be questions that I would love to ask in terms of where did you get inspiration from? And like, where did you get the courage to try to completely turn an industry on its head? And a lot of that, I think, comes back to focusing on like the user, the design, the simplicity of what he did, like with like when they went from, I think it was the PowerBook to the MacBooks, right? Like, who who were you to decide that this is something that the world is going to adopt? Like, where do you get the inspiration, the courage, the technical know-how to this day that I don't call this a laptop, I call it my MacBook, right? That's a made up word. And how does someone come up with ideas like that? Like, yeah, sure, you just change the name, add two words, put them together, right? Yeah, MacBook. Like, it sounds silly, but what
Yeah.
it represents, like, where'd you get these ideas from, man? Like, what did you did you get these in a vision? Like, things like that, right? Like,
Yeah.
even with the iPhone, like where did it come from? Like, how did you know that something like this would be so universally accepted, right? Like, where did you get these ideas? I obviously, like, you look into his history and you understand like the way he dropped out of the school he was taking, and then he would drop into the classes that interested him, right? Like calligraphy and things like that. I remember reading a bunch about him, and just how these ideas got formulated and put together. That, again, I can't speak for someone like Steve Jobs, but I almost don't even know if it would be like a one simple sentence answer as to how to portray that across, right? Like a lifetime of learning and knowledge, and how to create something, well, things as great as he
Yeah.
did. So again, it's hard to even formulate a question, but I hope that kind of portrayed what I would love to know from somebody like
Yeah.
that.
Very, very good answer for a very Nice question as well. I love your answer. I think, yeah, Steve Jobs would be one of my top three as well. All right,
Awesome. Great minds think alike.
it's been very, very nice, like cherry picking your brain. So we are now in our final question. I really, really love asking
Okay.
this question. I've asked this to the past guests as well. How would you like to be remembered?
Ooh, deep question. I like it. I would love to be remembered for creating some type of lasting impact based on the actions that I was able to do in my lifetime. Whether, and in different senses too, right? Like professionally and in terms of family wise for like my kids, right? But I'll definitely touch a little bit more on like professional wise. A lot of the reason why I decided to switch into software engineering was because of exactly that. In terms of impact, when I did accounting, yes, I had a lot of technical knowledge. I had a lot of success as a CPA. Worked senior at Deloitte, and again, not tooting my own horn, but just in terms of like backing with the achievements I was able to accomplish in that career. Um, but I never felt fulfilled in terms of any impact that I was leaving. I had a lot of technical knowledge. I knew how to execute in terms of the job that needed to be done, but I didn't feel that there was impact being left behind. Switching to software engineering for me, a lot of that is being able to create impact. A lot of that, even in my like the job that I do right now, right? The work that I've done, projects that I've worked on that I know as an organization with Lush have had an impact across the globe, right? And
Mm,
it's an amazing feeling to know the things that you're working on that have a lasting impact. And when people say, like for example, oh yeah, I subscribe to the Lush product box every month. It's an amazing feeling to be able to say, whether or not to the person or just to know internally, be like, I helped build that. You know, I had hands in something that had an impact worldwide. And again, I have what I consider a lifetime of experience in accounting in terms of like the busy seasons, the accountants will know. But anyways, to learn and to grow and to teach others. And I'm looking to do the same thing with software engineering. I'm so early in my journey still, and I know that there's so much more to go, but it excites me so much, right? To sit here and to learn about things and to learn about tools and to know that there's no limits to my journey and the work that I will be able to produce one day and the impact that it will have, whether it's products and services, whether it's in helping to teach and mentor others
yeah.
to guide them along their way. It's been an incredible journey, and I know like I've my words have touched a lot of people in terms of inspiring them and guiding them, and all I'm doing is just putting my head down and working on my journey while trying to, spread the word and show people that it's possible too. What I did, it's nothing crazy, nothing special in my eyes. I just had a vision, I had a goal, and I executed on it. And in terms of leaving an impact, whether again, it's through the day in, day out things that I do or the message that I've been able to get across to people, that's really what I'm hoping for, just in terms of just making impact and, helping people, whether it's through the things that I do day in, day out. You sit there and you learn everything, you get all this technical experience, but unless you're executing on it and able to affect people, what's it all for, right? And again, I almost immediately starting working within the field, I was able to see and know that impact of my day in, day out actions compared to a career that I spent,
Mm.
almost 10 years working professionally in. And that's when I knew that this was the work that I'm meant to do, right? Just continue to grow, continue to learn, and just put forth my best work and help or affect as many people as I can along the way. That's I guess that's the most that I can ask for in terms of being remembered.
Amazing, amazing. I think your lasting impact is not only on the products or the job that you do. From talking to you and knowing you, the lasting impact is also the story that you tell, all the inspiration, all the hard work, all the scars, the dip that you went through is also a lasting impact. And I hope this podcast will bring, inspiration to a lot of people through your story. And yeah, thank you. Any lasting words like where people can find you, Twitter, LinkedIn? Yeah, feel free to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. And, I hope it didn't just feel like I was just sitting here spewing my story for so long. But again, I'm glad that it's a story that hopefully people can hear and can resonate with in terms of what I've been through. Absolutely, LinkedIn's the easiest way to find me. I think it's linkedin.com, Nick dash Abate, I think is my handle on there. Yeah, I work at Lush, so if you see me on LinkedIn, Lush, that's the easiest way to find me. Not too big on Twitter or X nowadays. Used to post on there. Um, Likely won't. More a bit more of a lurker these days, but yeah, LinkedIn is definitely the best place to reach out, and people do all the time. Which I'm always happy to answer questions. Anybody have a chat, whatnot. Again, it's why I got into this, right? And I love to share the story just to help inspire others and to show them that it's possible. So again, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I hope a lot of people see this. People
Yeah.
that might hit their own dip and not sure where to go, what to do. And hopefully this could be a little bit of a light for some
Oh,
people if they need it.
yeah. Well, thank you for your time. Really amazing talking to you. All right then. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Faith. Take care.
All right.